Shocking moment revealed, bank teller disrespects black CEO, $3 billion partnership transformed forever. As Jordan Bailey approached the towering glass doors of the bank, his heart raced in sync with the vibrant pulse of downtown Atlanta. He stood on the cusp of a monumental $3 billion partnership, a dream forged through years of determination. With every step, he felt memories flooding back, his parents working 2 jobs each, their quiet sacrifices echoing in his thoughts. The values of hard work and perseverance had been etched into his spirit, grounding him as he juggled excitement and trepidation. But as he walked through the threshold, an invisible wall of dismissiveness greeted him. The teller, Sarah, barely glanced at him, her voice dripping with skepticism. "Can I help you?" she asked, raising an eyebrow, as though his presence was an unwelcome anomaly in her routine. That casual tone sent a stab of hurt through him. Jordan had worked too hard to be reduced to an unworthy glance. The stark contrast between his potential and her dismissive attitude was a bitter pill to swallow. He felt anger bubbling within him, simmering just beneath the surface. With clenched fists and a tight chest, he had a choice to make: lash out or rise above. He remembered his parents' struggles and their unwavering optimism. They never let the world's barriers define them. So, he took a deep breath, calming the tempest within. "I'm here to speak about a partnership," he replied with surprising steadiness. The respect he fought for danced on the edge of his tongue. Days passed as his mind wrestled with the encounter. He couldn't shake off that moment. It was more than just a fleeting disrespect, it represented the struggles faced by many black leaders. But then, his community rallied behind him, sending messages of support that ignited a fierce determination within. He remembered how much he admired his parents' resilience. He wouldn't let one moment of prejudice overshadow the dreams he had for his family and community. He knew he had to stand his ground. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue." The day of the press conference arrived, the tension crackling in the air like static electricity. As journalists scribbled notes, cameras flashed, and anticipation built, Jordan felt his heart hammering in his chest. When it was time for him to speak, he approached the podium with purpose. But before he could dive into the details of the partnership, the moment of reckoning hit him. A reporter asked about his experience with the bank, and the heat of that past confrontation surged inside him. "It's not just a personal story," he spoke, voice steady. "It reflects the biases many of us face in our pursuits. This partnership exists because I fought for what I believe in." His words reverberated through the room, silence falling heavily as eyes widened in recognition. Could this be the moment they confront their own biases? In that tense atmosphere, Jordan stood at a crossroads. Would he turn this experience into a beacon for change, or would he fade into the background like so many times before? The room held its breath, hanging on to his next words, while his own heart raced with anticipation. Would this moment echo through time, turning struggles into strength and hopes into reality? Jordan looked out over the sea of faces in front of him, each one a mirror reflecting his deeper thoughts. He could see hesitation, uncertainty, and even curiosity in their eyes. The silence was thick, almost suffocating. He gathered himself and stood a little taller, the weight of expectations igniting a fire within him. This was not just about him, it was about every person who had felt dismissed, overlooked, or underestimated. "I want to talk about what it means to break through these barriers," he continued, his voice rising with passion. "Every step up this ladder wasn't handed to me. It was earned, just like it has been for countless others in our community." He let the words hang in the air, filling the room with his conviction. The faces changed slowly, nodding now, as his message began to resonate. The moment transformed, and he could feel the energy shifting, like a wave washing over the initial tension. There, amid the journalists and executives, he spotted Sarah again, her expression caught somewhere between realization and regret. Could this moment reach her too? Could it challenge her preconceptions? Time slipped by as Jordan shared more of his story, his upbringing, the sleepless nights, the endless rejections, and the small triumphs that paved his way. With each sentence, he painted a vivid picture, drawing them close, as if they were part of his journey. Change doesn't come easily, he said, his tone softening. It requires courage to confront bias when we see it and to support one another in our individual quests. He could see reactions shift in the audience, there were composed faces turning animated with interest, correction, and perhaps even understanding. As he wrapped up, a buzz spread among the crowd. The air felt lighter now, infused with hope and determination. People started whispering, exchanging glances, as if realizing they were all part of something larger that could no longer be ignored. After the press conference, Jordan was flooded with applause from his team and newfound allies within the press. He had done it, he turned a moment of disrespect into a powerful conversation about change. Yet, amid the celebration, a nagging thought lingered: had he made enough of an impact? Would the discussions continue once the cameras were off? A hand clapped him on the shoulder. It was his mentor, the wise and reassuring figure who had believed in him when he doubted himself the most. "You did good today, Jordan. But remember, this is just the beginning." The words resonated deeply. This was just the first step in a long journey toward lasting change. As he walked out of the bank amid cheers and congratulations, he thought about everything that lay ahead. The partnership was essential, yes, but so was turning the tide on bias. He had ignited a conversation, but how would he keep it alive? How would he ensure that today's dialogue transitioned into actionable change, rather than fizzling out like too many moments before? Determined, Jordan took a deep breath, ready to forge a new path both for himself and for the community he held dear. The road ahead was filled with both challenges and potential, but he could feel the support of his community behind him. As he stepped outside, a chilly breeze brushed against his face, and the hustle of the city felt invigorating. Everything was changing, and he had a role to play in shaping what came next. What would be the first bold move he needed to make in order to ensure that this opportunity truly transformed lives? The sun dipped low in the sky as Jordan made his way to the conference room for the follow-up meeting. He felt a surge of adrenaline coursing through his veins, still riding the high of his speech. But beneath that thrill was a flutter of anxiety. The room was packed, filled with faces of people he knew would be watching him closely, waiting to see if he could maintain the momentum he had built. He entered the room with a firm resolve, greeting each member of his newly formed team with a nod. The discussions would center around his mission to foster inclusivity in the workplace and create actionable programs to combat bias. But he was also aware that believing in change didn't mean others were on board. "All right, everyone," he began, standing in front of the PowerPoint projector, "let's work together to make this happen." He clicked through slides, showing data about racial disparities in the banking sector. The numbers were stark, they told stories of missed opportunities and broken dreams. As he spoke, he watched the expressions of his colleagues shift: confusion, skepticism, curiosity. It was all there. Jordan took a moment to pause. "These aren't just numbers," he urged, locking eyes with individual team members. "They're our friends, our families, our community. If we can work together to change these statistics, we will make a lasting impact." A soft murmur of agreement came from a few corners of the room, while others remained still, their faces tight with doubt. He sensed a divide, it was time to bridge it. "Let's break it down," he proposed. "What are we willing to do, as individuals and a collective, to promote diversity?" He opened the floor, encouraging his team to share their thoughts, even if it meant facing uncomfortable truths. As hands shot up, he encouraged an open dialogue. There were voices of support, but some pushed back, suggesting it wasn't really a priority. Jordan felt his heart race at the pushback. He recognized that this was the moment that could define his journey, not just as a leader, but as an agent of real change. "Why is it not a priority?" He pressed gently, hoping to challenge their thinking. Is it because you don't see the need for it in your daily lives? Isn't that exactly the challenge we face? The air thickened with contemplation. He saw Sarah in the back, her arms crossed tightly. Her typical stance of defense was now a barrier he hoped to dismantle. Let us all reflect on how bias plays into our personal experiences. It's not easy, but that's where growth happens, he said, his voice softer now, inviting connection. One by one, stories began to unfold. A white team member shared his experience of not being chosen based on a perception that he didn't fit. A Latina colleague opened up about her journey and the moments she felt unseen. Jordan felt the energy shift again. It was like a wave, washing away the tension to build understanding. Just as he basked in the glow of their collective vulnerability, his phone buzzed with a notification, breaking his focus. The message was jarring. A major news outlet had picked up his speech and titled it provocatively, focusing on the controversy rather than the change. Wow, he muttered under his breath, feeling a mix of pride and concern. This newfound attention could hinder, rather than help, his efforts. Looking up, he caught Sarah's gaze, her brow furrowed with worry. Could this be enough to turn the tide? Would she step forward, or retreat into skepticism again? As he faced the group, something clicked deep inside him. This was just the beginning, but he needed a plan. One that not only diffused conflict but engaged hearts and minds. Let us schedule something impactful, he declared, eyes brightening. Let us invite the community to a roundtable. Let us connect with those we're trying to help. We can't just talk among ourselves, we need to expand this conversation. Cheers and murmurs of agreement ignited the room, but Jordan felt the weight of that last message pressing down. Would the media capture the truth behind their efforts or distort the purpose? And as he took a breath, eager to dive into their next steps, he couldn't shake the question hanging in the air: how would they control the narrative amidst this unpredictable storm? As Jordan watched the excitement ripple through the room, he felt a warmth spread across his chest, but the gnawing anxiety tugged at him. Everyone was on board for now, but would they stand firm when the waves of opposition crashed into their efforts? He glanced at Sarah again, her posture still defensive. He needed her on his side. Let us brainstorm ideas for this roundtable, Jordan suggested, spreading his arms wide like an invitation. Who do we want to invite? What topics are crucial? Hands shot up, momentum building. A young analyst named Rashid suggested they could involve community leaders, while Lisa, a manager with a keen sense of outreach, threw in the idea of including high school students to gain fresh perspectives. Brilliant! Jordan exclaimed, jotting down notes feverishly. This excitement felt like a jolt of electricity, sparking creativity, igniting passion. But amidst the noise, his mind flickered back to the article, the headline reverberating in his thoughts. Shockwaves. Disrespect. Transformation. If portrayed incorrectly, their gathering aimed at healing could turn into a spectacle of drama. He tried to push the worry aside and focus on his team. We need to ensure this roundtable isn't just another talking head fest. We want vulnerability, real stories. Ooh, like a story circle. Someone suggested from the back. Yes. Shouted Jordan, enthusiasm bubbling. Let us make it a safe space where everyone can share their experiences. It's about connection. Excitement filled the room as ideas blossomed. They discussed committees, outreach strategies, and the structure of the event. Each person seemed to believe they had a part to play. He could feel their zeal, their fight, and it fueled him. But as they tossed ideas around, every cheer rang hollow with the reminder of the media's hot breath on his neck. Jordan. Sarah's voice broke into his thoughts. He turned, meeting her intense stare. Do you think they'll twist this? You know how the press can be. Jordan felt his heart quicken. I'm not sure, he admitted. That's why we need to control the narrative. Show them we're not just empty words. Maybe we could keep a video log. Document the process as we go along, suggested Lisa. Share our story directly. That's a fantastic idea. Real people, real voices, Jordan encouraged, the tension in his chest easing a bit. But doubt still nagged at him. The team chatted excitedly about logistics, reaching out, creating a video, but amidst his colleagues' budding camaraderie, his eyes locked on Sarah again. She was the puzzle piece he needed to fit in the larger picture. Sarah, you've been quiet, he prompted, refusing to let her slip away unnoticed. What do you think? She hesitated, biting her lip, weighing her words. I worry that we're not ready for the backlash. What if they misunderstand our intentions? What if it backfires? Her uncertainty echoed his fears. In that moment, everything felt so fragile, like a house of cards easily knocked down. Every great change comes with risks, Jordan replied, trying to sound more confident than he felt. But we can't let fear dictate our actions. The group paused, absorbing his words. Jordan's heartbeat drummed louder in the silence. Was he convincing himself or them? He took a breath, shaking off the weight. We need to take those risks to foster growth. Let us bring connection. That's real change. Nods filled the room, but his eyes returned to Sarah. He could see her wrestling with the idea. Could she step up? Would she choose to be a bridge where there was once division? As the conversation flowed, the conference room buzzed with energy for what was to come. But the headlights of controversy loomed ahead. Speaking up might call forth not only support but also scrutiny and backlash. Jordan took one last look around, feeling the pulse of all these dreams. The momentum was there, but would it hold? Would they turn the tides, or would the storm sweep them away? And as the session drew to a close, the question lingered thick in the air, could unity withstand the fractures of misunderstanding? Or was it all about to unravel? The meeting dispersed, but the echoes of laughter and ideas still hung in the air like vibrant colors on a canvas. Jordan felt both a sense of accomplishment and an urgency pressing down on his chest. Despite their enthusiasm, he couldn't shake off the creeping doubt about the dark cloud of the media that loomed ominously over them. As he walked out of the conference room, his mind played back Sarah's words. What if they were wrong? What if the backlash was more than they could handle? His heart quickened as he made his way to his office. He needed to pull together a strategy, one that would shield them from the onslaught others might bring. He settled at his desk, thumbing through his notes. A knock on the door pulled him from his spiraling thoughts. It was Sarah, her expression serious, but a flicker of determination shone behind her eyes. Can I come in? She asked softly. Of course. I was just thinking about this whole endeavor, he replied, gesturing for her to sit. I need to talk to you, she said, a tremor in her voice. About what lies ahead. I want to be part of this, but I'm terrified of the implications. Jordan leaned forward, his heart sinking at her wavering confidence. I understand. What are your fears? What if our message gets twisted? What if we set ourselves up for failure? She paused, exhaling loudly. Her vulnerability melted some of his own anxiety. And honestly, what if I fail you guys? Sarah, you won't fail us. We're all in this together. We can't control how people react, but we can control our authenticity, he urged, hoping to bolster her confidence. Your voice is strong, it needs to be heard. That's where the real impact lies. His words seemed to lighten the air between them, but she still looked uncertain. What if they misunderstand our intentions? Dismiss our ideals as nothing but hollow words? Her concerns echoed in his mind as he fought against the rising tide of dread. We need to be proactive. Maybe we gather voices together, articulate our vision in a clearer way before the event. A spark seemed to light in her eyes. Yes. If we outline our goals, define our purpose in our communications, we can guide the narrative ourselves. Nodding, Jordan felt hope rise within him. Exactly. We can create a blog, update our community, even set up a pre-event teaser video that tells our story, our real story. They both shared a moment of gentle laughter, the tension easing a bit. But Jordan's mind wandered again to the article's title, a knife edge he could not ignore. The buzzing world outside wouldn't be so generous. Let us meet with the communication team tomorrow, he proposed. We can draft a plan to address concerns and maintain clarity about our mission. We want to show how earnest our intentions are. We want to shine. Right. Sarah's voice grew steadier. And we could include snippets of real stories from people who have been touched by these issues. Make it personal. He couldn't help but smile at her enthusiasm. That's the spirit. We need to humanize our efforts, connect with the broader audience. Real emotions, real experiences. As they brainstormed, hours slipped by. Jordan felt a newfound determination sink into his bones. They were gathering their forces, ready not just to weather the storm, but to ride the waves of change. But as they wrapped up their plans, a chilling realization settled in Jordan's gut. Now they had ignited something that couldn't be extinguished. What if those stories revealed truths that not everyone was ready to face? What if, in their pursuit of connection, they unearthed deeper divisions? With these thoughts weighing on him, he met Sarah's gaze. Are you ready for tomorrow? She nodded, albeit hesitantly. As ready as I can be. Good. We stand together. But deep inside, the question swirled in his mind, could they dismantle misconceptions, or would they reopen wounds best left untouched? As they filed out of the office, uncertainty lingered like fog over the horizon. Would their light shine bright enough to pierce through the shadows of misunderstanding ahead? Jordan couldn't shake the feeling that something monumental was about to unfold, something that would alter the course of their lives forever. The next morning dawned with a thick fog hanging over the city, shadows cloaking the streets as if the world itself was holding its breath. Jordan arrived at the office, his heart pounding in anticipation. He and Sarah had built a fragile framework of hope, but the heaviness of their fears seemed to cling to him, making each step feel heavier than the last. As he settled into his desk, he glanced at the clock. Just 10 more minutes until they met with the communication team. The tension in his chest tightened. He had read and reread their plans, but the potential for backlash loomed large. As he shuffled through papers, every detail seemed to morph into a potential disaster. The door swung open, and Sarah walked in with a determined stride, a stack of papers clutched in her hands. I hope I'm not late, she said, her voice brightening the room. The confidence in her demeanor momentarily lifted his spirits. You're right on time, he replied, a small smile breaking through. Did you have any more thoughts overnight? I did, she said, shifting her weight. I drafted some messaging points we could use to ground our conversations. They touch on our values, the personal stories, and why this is important right now. Jordan's heart swelled with pride. That's perfect. Let us go over them before the team arrives. They dove into discussion, their ideas blending seamlessly together like colors merging on a canvas. The words flowed, each one steeping their mission with a sense of purpose. They could create something meaningful, something that resonated beyond them. As they put the finishing touches on their strategies, the team started filtering in. The atmosphere shifted, adrenaline replaced the silence, tension replaced with anticipation. They huddled together, and Jordan took the lead. Gleaning confidence from Sarah's earlier ardor, he spoke with newfound fervor. Okay, everyone, we're here to craft a narrative that is about connection and authenticity. Excited murmurs rippled through the group. Let us make sure we articulate our message clearly, one team member chimed in, while another proposed incorporating videos that showcased heartfelt testimonials. Hours dripped away as they pored over every detail. Their collective voices echoed with energy, each idea more potent and compelling than the last. Jordan could feel the room swell with a palpable sense of teamwork. Maybe, just maybe, they could pull this off together. But as the meeting came to a close, a notification pinged on Jordan's phone. His gaze flicked to the screen. It was a headline shared by a friend. Shocking moment revealed. Bank teller disrespects Black CEO $3 billion partnership transformed forever. His gut twisted as he read the article's summary. Conflict, backlash, it was all there. A story that had the potential to overshadow their efforts. Jordan. Sarah's voice broke through his thoughts, pulling him back into the room. Are you okay? He locked eyes with her, feeling the weight of the moment. I just saw something. He hesitated, feeling the air thicken around them. We need to address this. It could shake everything we're working for. The group fell silent as the reality of the situation sunk in. All their plans, their hopes, could be buried beneath the weight of this news. The doubt flickered in everyone's eyes, a hidden fear of being connected to the very conflict they were trying to rise above. Let us not just react. We need a strategy now, Sarah voiced, her determination sparking like a flame. What if we say something before it spirals? Jordan nodded, realizing the depth of their challenge. They were not just trying to capture a narrative, they were now playing defense against harmful perceptions. You're right. If we lead with our mission, we can counter the negativity. We have to share our truth. As they began to brainstorm within the fray of reactions and responsible messaging, the stakes felt higher than ever. Jordan could sense palpable fear mingling with hope, a delicate balance that begged for stability. Could they transform this moment into an opportunity instead of allowing it to become a stumbling block? As the lines blurred between preservation and transformation, the looming question hung in the air: would they remain united and fearless in a time that threatened to divide? Their future, fragile yet resolute, was about to be tested like never before. Jordan took a deep breath, restoring focus to the quiet storm of panic swirling within him. All right then, let us think this through. If we publish our response now, it'll show that we want to let negativity define us. We want to redirect the conversation, he urged, feeling a burning need to wrest control from the chaos surrounding them. The group leaned in, faces serious, minds racing. Sarah glanced at her notes, her brow furrowed. Let us lead with empathy. We need to acknowledge the hurt this incident has caused without sounding defensive. Highlight the connection we have with our community. Exactly, Jordan chimed in. It's important that we remind everyone of our commitment to diversity and inclusion. This isn't just about a partnership, it's about values we live out every day. Someone from the back spoke up, a hesitant voice breaking through the tension. But what if our response gets misinterpreted? This situation seems volatile. Then we clarify, Sarah replied, igniting a flicker of hope. We provide personal perspectives. Testimonials about our work with marginalized groups could help frame our response authentically. The team members began firing ideas back and forth. Their energy was infectious, it morphed into an urgency as they sketched out an outline on a whiteboard. Jordan took in the enthusiasm around him. This was what they did best. They were adaptable. They could pivot, and they had to. As they worked through the messaging, Jordan could almost feel the weight lift. They weren't just reacting, they were shaping their narrative, with each word they crafted resonating with their truth. Suddenly, the pull of fear started to lose its grip, and with it, the possibility of hope began to rise. But just then, Sarah's phone buzzed with harsh clarity. She held it up, a frown twisting her features. Guys, it's escalating. People are responding to the article. We need to move quickly. Jordan's heart sank as he glanced at the screen. The comments were pouring in, angry, hurtful, and dividing. The shockwaves of the incident were reverberating throughout social media, twisting narratives into sensationalism. An avalanche of dissent threatened to overwhelm them before their plan could even take flight. This isn't about us, Jordan said, trying to rally the group. We have to keep people focused on the bigger picture. If we don't address the values we stand for, we lose this battle and the trust we've built. Then let us put our plan into action, no more waiting, Sarah replied, her determination infecting the room once more. We can schedule a press release and draft a heartfelt video by the end of the day. With a newfound resolve, they split into teams, each energized by the urgency of the moment. Fingers danced across keyboards, voices exchanged quick clarifications, and ideas flowed like an unbroken chain connecting them. They were not just co-workers in that office, they were warriors on a mission, fighting for a vision they all believed in. As the clock ticked, a sense of togetherness washed over them. They were building something fierce and authentic. Jordan caught sight of Sarah's unwavering confidence, her belief in their cause rekindling his own resolve. But just as they were finishing their preparations, a message rang out from a group chat. Another article had surfaced, one that threatened not only their current efforts but also pulled up old wounds from their past. Jordan's heart raced again as he read the headline. Foundation's integrity questioned, past allegations resurface amid controversy. Their fragile sense of hope suddenly felt tainted as uncertainty predictably slipped back in. Jordan looked at Sarah, fear reflected in their shared gaze. Was this just the beginning of a wider storm, or could they weather it together? The gravity of the moment hung like fog in the room, blurring the clarity they had fought for. Time felt slippery as the fight for their narrative transformed into a race for survival. Would they be strong enough to confront not only the external fears but also the shadows from their own past? The challenge was immense, but so was their determination. In the cacophony of voices and decisions, one thing remained clear: this was just the start of a battle they had to fight together. As the flickering lights of their screens illuminated their worried faces, a single question echoed in the back of Jordan's mind: were they capable of overcoming not only the external chaos but the internal demons as well? Panic washed over Jordan like a cold wave, but he couldn't afford to drown in it. He pulled himself together, mind racing as he scanned the faces of his team. They were still fired up, but now the uncertainty hung like a storm cloud above them. He needed a plan, something concrete, something they could use to fight against the tides rushing in. Okay, he said, trying to infuse confidence into his voice. We need to reach out to the community directly. Let's organize a town hall meeting. An open platform where we can discuss this, answer questions, and showcase our commitment to the values we believe in. Sarah nodded, her eyes brightening at the idea. Yes. It'll show that we want to listen, not just talk at people. Others in the room murmured in agreement. There was a flicker of hope rekindling as their shared purpose began to breathe life again. Jordan could feel the momentum building, synergy crackling like electricity. They quickly laid out plans for the town hall, decided on a date, reserved a venue, and pinpointed key speakers. Jordan took a moment, glancing around the room at the focused faces lit by laptop screens. There was resilience among them, a shared understanding that despite the scars of the past, they had an opportunity to create a better future. But just as they began to feel like they were back in control, Sarah's phone buzzed again, cutting through the hopeful atmosphere. She winced and looked down. Another tweet. It's not good. The collective breath in the room seemed to freeze. What does it say? Jordan asked, dread creeping into his heart. It's from a major news source. They're questioning our integrity again, tying in all the allegations from years ago, and they've got a video of that incident with the bank teller. It's all going to blow up again. Jordan felt his heart drop. The foundation they had worked so hard to build was now trembling under the weight of their history. He swallowed hard, knowing they couldn't back down. We can't let them drown us. We need to respond publicly. We owe it to ourselves and our community. The group resumed their dialogue, voices clashing in a mixture of urgency and despair. They knew that public perception could make or break them, every word weighed heavy. They needed to craft a response that acknowledged the past yet propelled them forward. Sarah took the lead, her passion reviving. Let's follow the town hall with an action plan, clear steps we're taking to improve and make amends. We can show people this is not just a talking point for us, it's our mission. Jordan nodded, her focus sparking a light in the atmosphere. We could also partner with community leaders, local activists. Let them help amplify our voices and tell the truth. Excitement began to brew amidst the chaos, and they could feel their idea solidifying into something powerful. Their energy swelled as they outlined an inclusive agenda for the town hall. They brainstormed outreach strategies, setting up social media campaigns to regain trust and dispel the growing narrative of disunity. However, as the evening wore on, an unshakable knot formed in Jordan's stomach. The momentary burst of hope couldn't erase the doubt that twinkled at the edges of his mind. What if it wasn't enough? Before they finished for the night, Jordan turned to his team, filled with a renewed sense of bond yet burdened by the weight of their reality. No matter how this goes, we will face it together. But what happens if our futures depend on sharing our stories? What if we're asked to confront our own failings in public? As the gravity of his words sank in, a nervous silence enveloped the room. In their hearts, they all knew that telling the truth was going to be harder than anything they had faced before. Would sharing their vulnerabilities unite them or shatter the fragile trust they were moving to reclaim? The clock ticked loudly, the noise echoing every ounce of their apprehension. Would they find the strength to be open, or would the shadows of their pasts continue to haunt them? The answer could change everything, and suddenly, the stakes felt higher than ever. The town hall was just 2 days away, but it felt like a lifetime. As Jordan looked over the seating arrangement for the venue, the gravity of their mission gnawed at him. Rows of empty chairs stared back at him, yet he could already envision the faces of their community filling them not just in support, but in skepticism. The stakes couldn't be higher. Each day brought more tweets, more articles, and a growing cloud of doubt loomed over them. Yet, with each alert that pinged his phone, he also felt a flicker of motivation igniting his drive. They couldn't hide from the past, it was a part of their story, a chapter they needed to own. He pinched the bridge of his nose, pushing away the fatigue that threatened to settle in. Jordan. Sarah's voice rang out, pulling him from his thoughts. She was hyper-focused, a notebook clutched in her hand. I think I've got a solid idea for our opening statement. What do you think about addressing the past directly but framing it as a lesson learned? Something like, we're here because we failed before, and this time, we're committed to making it right. He nodded, impressed with her vision. That's powerful. It shows vulnerability but also strength. It reaffirms our purpose without denying our mistakes. We need to strike that balance. Just then, the door swung open and Mark, the group's social media strategist, stepped in, a look of urgency plastered on his face. Guys, I just saw the clips that are being circulated. They're pushing this narrative hard. It's spinning out of control. We need to be proactive, not reactive. A sense of unease rippled through the group. Reactions would come, and not all of them would be favorable. What do you suggest? Jordan asked, bracing for what he knew would be challenging news. Mark took a deep breath and replied, we should release a video ahead of the town hall. Something raw and real, where we address the allegations and explain our vision for the future. Let us get in front of this show that we're not afraid to confront our past heads on. Jordan felt the knot in his stomach tighten. A video? The thought of putting his face and that of his team out there was daunting. But he could also see the potential. We can't just react. We can own this conversation, he said, trying to convince himself as much as his team. Sarah chimed in, and we can include personal stories. Let them see the people behind the organization, our commitment, and how we've grown. It'll humanize our message. The room buzzed with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. Each idea flowed like a stream, rushing forward, merging into a rising tide of collective determination. They wanted their voices to echo truth, to shimmer with sincerity. Okay, let us split into 2 groups, Jordan ordered. One for crafting the video content and the other to finalize the details of the town hall. We need to maximize our reach and impact. We can do this. We must do this. The next several hours whirled by in a whirlwind of ideas, edits, and revisions. Jordan recorded the message they planned to deliver, the cadence of his voice growing steadier with each take. He fought against the faint sound of apprehension echoing in his mind. This was it, they were turning their vulnerabilities into strength. By the time they wrapped up, the energy in the room felt electric. Their shared fears had forged a deeper connection, a bond that felt almost familial. Jordan caught glimpses of hope in their eyes that had been clouded just days before. As the night wore on, however, one nagging thought lingered. Would their community embrace their honesty? What if it backfired? They were battling against an uphill tide, and the truth was stark: they had to confront their shadows in front of everyone. When they gathered for a final huddle, Jordan laid a hand on Sarah's shoulder, his heart swelling with gratitude. No matter what happens, I'm proud to stand with each of you. We're more than our past, we're the change we want to see. But as they prepared to leave, Mark pulled out his phone. Heads up, everyone. It's trending even more now. They've released more footage, and it's not pretty. We're under a microscope at a moment when honesty might be the hardest path to take. Jordan's heart raced. In that instant, faced with both fear and resolve, he realized they weren't just stepping into the spotlight, they were stepping into a storm. Would this brave confrontation lead to healing or destruction? The answer awaited them on that stage, and the air felt thick with unspoken promises. Would they emerge transformed, holding their heads high, or would the past drown them yet again? The sun hung low in the sky, casting a soft glow over the venue as Jordan stood backstage, his heart thumping louder than the rising crowd outside. The tension was almost palpable. This town hall meeting was their moment, a chance to confront adversity and turn their narrative around. The seating area was filling up with faces he recognized, yet doubt twisted in his gut. Would they hear his truth, or was the storm too loud? Jordan took a deep breath, grasping the microphone tightly. He caught sight of Sarah radiating confidence despite the weight of the moment. In that instant, he felt the fragile bond of trust they had built amongst themselves kick into gear. They had worked too hard, fought too fiercely to let fear eclipse the importance of what they had to say. "Let us do this," he whispered to himself, stepping forward as the host introduced him. The crowd erupted into applause, but he could sense the undercurrent of skepticism too. It was there, mingling under the cheers, threading through their expectations. "Hello everyone," Jordan began, his voice steady despite the storm brewing inside. "Thank you for being here today. This moment is important, not just for me, but for all of us." He paused, the weight of his words sinking in. "I want to acknowledge that we've faced challenges, and some of those challenges arose from our own past." He felt their collective gaze grow sharp, intrigued, and perhaps even a bit apprehensive. "It's vital for us to confront what's uncomfortable, what's painful between us as a community," he continued, his heart racing as he shared the story of the previous encounters, reflecting the raw truth of bias and dismissal. "I am the face of many voices who've felt overlooked. This isn't just my story, it belongs to every person who has ever stood in the shadows." There were some murmurs of recognition, nods from familiar faces, and his confidence surged. He felt emboldened to share the love and values instilled in him by his parents. "What I've learned through my journey is that growth comes from taking risks, owning our mistakes, and extending compassion toward one another. The disrespect I faced as I walked into the bank was not just mine, it was a reflection of barriers that many endure daily." The room fell silent, eyes were wide, hearts were open. He took this opportunity to weave in personal stories, anecdotes of collective struggle, and hopes for a better future. Each word felt like a stitch pulling their community closer together. "I know that some of you may feel anger or disagreement," he admitted. "But today, I invite you to join this conversation of change. Embrace vulnerability with me. Let us create a dialogue that fosters real compassion. I want future generations to feel seen, valued, and respected for who they are." As he stepped aside, he glanced at Sarah, who stood ready to share her own thoughts, her expression fierce yet vulnerable. Jordan is right, she started, addressing the audience, her passion vibrant. I know I have made mistakes. I want to be transparent about my biases, my learning process, and my commitment to growth. We need to own our past, not shy away from it. Together, let us ensure we build something stronger. Their words intertwined, creating an electric atmosphere of empathy and resolve. Jordan felt a shift. The skepticism that hung in the air began to evaporate, replaced by understanding. Voices rose from the crowd, echoing support and questions about how to move forward together. As conversations blurred into hope, audience members began sharing their own experiences, stories of struggle, of redemption. Jordan could feel walls breaking down, a willingness to engage. They were no longer just listeners, they were participants in a vital movement. The room pulsed with energy, emotions swinging from tears to laughter, from heaviness to light. Jordan knew they had ignited something special that day, a sense of community that hadn't been there before. After they wrapped up the open dialogue, there was laughter, hugging, and a flicker of hope igniting the weary spirits nearby. His heart swelled as he watched people resonate with one another, finding common ground. And later, as he, Sarah, and the team walked out of the venue amidst cheers, he thought about the journey ahead. This was just the start. They had faced down uncertainty and cracked open the door to transformation. In that moment, despite the lingering shadows, a new connection bloomed, a commitment to growth, inclusion, and understanding. As he took a deep breath, inhaling the fresh air outside, something inside him knew, together, they could forge a brighter tomorrow. They were no longer bound by the past. They were building a new legacy. Now, this is where you come in. If you found inspiration in this story of resilience and transformation, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support with a like now. It feeds the algorithm and helps spread these messages of hope. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this powerful ending. Your voice matters. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Let us inspire change together.